I'm gonna start the recording here. So, yeah, you can reload this side. Go to Discord. Okay, so I tried. So I tried to create a list of what it is that I want to accomplish here, because and like I say, we're probably gonna squeeze up here, so I don't want to miss the trade. But let's see. So we'll talk about that here in a second. But we're watching the VIX now. You can see it's breaking down. So I'm gonna get here into calls, small position, because I'm not gonna be able to focus. Let's see. So I think 4,300 SPX calls. Oh, they're more expensive than what I want to pay right now. Okay, so I'm gonna wait a little bit here, but let's see. So basically, yeah, I won't be surprised if we're gonna if we break the yesterday high. There's so many people short and offside. I won't be surprised if we squeeze up and turn into a trend day today. So that's what we want to watch for. You can see on mega spaces everything's cleaning up pretty good.
Yeah, you have the green super trend. Thing is green turning green.
Yep. Okay. So basically what it is that I want to do is I want to be able to create a group here, and so we still have Ripster, and you can keep doing that. So I don't really care exactly how you go about it, but I think what we want to do in this group is to focus on safer trades. So we want to look at it and say, okay, how do we take safer trades? We're not just going to take trades for the heck of it. Okay, we're going to go in here and we're going to say, okay, what's the indicator telling us, and then following it. And something that I found that it's working very well for me, okay, is looking at the VIX. So I'm just gonna. So if you look at my screen, I'm just reloading this. So I have the VIX bottom left on the 1 minute, and then I have the VIX on the 2 minute bottom right. Okay, and then at the top I have SPY, 2 minutes, and I have the indicators loaded on them, and then I have Mega 8 at the top right. And so when I look at this, so the primary strategy for me that's been working pretty well is to follow the VIX on the 1 and 2 minute time frames. The 1 minute is a little bit more noisy, so that's why I have the 2 minutes, so that we don't get distracted by that. But when you look at this, so this is today at 8:38 a.m. And when you look at the chart at the bottom and top, you'll see that the crosshair is synchronized between the two. So if I go in and hover over one chart, you'll see it on the other side. So you'll be able to see how they work together. And what I want to just, sorry, my charts are. So when you look at the VIX, you'll see up here. So this was at 840. You can see how it turned up and it stayed green, and we have a yellow triangle saying, "Hey, we're moving up." And then at the top, you can see how SPY drop down. Okay, so those are the moves we wanna catch. And then if we look at this yellow triangle, it's basically on the 2-minute. It's this yellow triangle here. And you can see that on the 1-minute we had a little bit more noise where we didn't have it on the 2-minute. So you want to be able to filter out. But when we have the it turning down here, you'll see that when you have a green triangle, which is our counter trend triangle, it gives us a warning that it's turning a little bit up, but it's not. It's just taking a breather, so that's not enough for you to get out. I mean, obviously, if you're losing money, you can play it whichever way you want. But I mean, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get these bigger runs, and I'm gonna work with you guys so you can learn how to read that. Okay. Now, before you take this strategy, you want to make sure that the SPY's higher time frames is opposite color of the VIX. If they're moving in the same direction, then you cannot trust them. Okay, so that's important. And then I've created in Discord, I created a new channel called SPY Chores. This VIX-SPY Chores, and the idea is I'm trying to list out what it is that we need to accomplish as a team. And my idea is that when we're all looking at this problem together and we're using exactly the same strategy, we're going to be able to catch these bigger moves. Like you saw yesterday, we had a 40-point move on, SPX after 2:30. And, so if we catch this together, you really only have to take 1 or 2 trades a day, and you're going to make a lot of money instead of just over trading and hoping that you're going to make some money. Now, the other group, the focus group, you can stay in there. You can keep trading whichever way you want. But basically, the thinking is that in this group, I want you guys to all use the same strategy, okay? And I've documented obviously, when you look back, we have the focus strategy that I've documented, elsewhere. But it was maybe a little bit broad. So right here, I have very specific chores that I want us to focus on. You can go read them yourselves, and then each day we can talk a little bit more about specific things. So I don't want to talk about everything in this list on day one, because that's just going to be too much. So I want to focus on one thing at a time. And basically today's focus, I want us to learn how to read the VIX-SPY interaction. Exit a meeting. Text it to me. I'm gonna feel. Okay. And so basically, right here, this is what I want to focus on today, so that we learn how to read this and then use this together. But before I do that, does anyone have a question before we go on? I mean, does it make sense what I'm trying to accomplish here?
Yeah. This you to us?
Yes, I mean I shared the link, so let's go.
Okay, perfect.
Doe jy vra vir mamma, ek kan regtig nie nou nie. Okay. Ek gaan oor 'n uur kan ek, 11 uur kan ek. Okay. So if you go to Discord, you look at the VIX-SPY chores list, you'll see that the charts used, the very first link that you see there. Go click on that, and in theory, it should look exactly the way mine look. If it doesn't, then we'll fix that. But so this way, you don't just get a screenshot, you get actually something that works. So if everyone can go and click on that link, and
I can confirm it looks good.
Okay. Yeah, so everyone click on that link. So that's what we want to focus on today. So you're gonna open that link up, and we're gonna talk about how to read this and how to get good at this. because this is the primary strategy. And then we'll talk about some of the other things. But the idea is to catch these long runs and be able to look through the noise. So when you look at Megaspace at the top right, obviously, when the market starts to run, you expect most of these to turn the same color. So that's why it's there, so that you can learn. It's like, okay, everything's red, everything's green. Okay, then we have SPY here, and the pre-market levels are super important. So we have the pre-market high, pre-market low, then we have the previous day's high, previous day's close, and then somewhere we'll have previous day's low. Obviously that was a red day, and then current day's low, current day's open, current day high. Okay, so for us to have a possible squeeze today, because all the shorts are offside. So if we are able to break above the previous day's high and the pre-market high, we have a real shot of getting an upward squeeze and getting a big momentum move to the upside. Okay, now I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but so you have to understand when you look at everything what the possible scenarios are based on the charts. So that's the thing we want to look for. Obviously, it's very dangerous to get bullish at the top and bearish at the bottom. Okay, but we want to play these big moves. So when we get here on the VIX, when you get the blue triangle, that's the time you want to get in and then hold until it invalidates. Okay, so part of this is getting in early. So when you look at this, you see here's a call signal. We're above the VWAP. Okay, and at that same time, you could see bottom left we have a blue triangle. So these are all confluences telling us it's time to get in. So these are, as a group, this is the focus, is like getting in when we see all these things align, instead of now when we're at the top and we're getting bullish at the top, which could still work. It's just that it's more risky. Is that making sense?
Absolutely.
So initially it's going to be slow and more painful because there's a lot to learn, but I really want, so I don't want people in here that's just going to sit and watch and take the trades that we take. I want everyone to participate. So I want to encourage everyone that's serious about this to try and set themselves up with a microphone so that they can speak up and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm seeing. And so right now it looks like everything's breaking down, but when you lok at the VIX, it's VIX is popping a little bit, but is it just like a little pop that's going to continue further down, repeating this pattern over here, or is it VIX actually turning? And that's really the difference. We don't care about small pops. We're not going to be scared out of a move, because the fact is that if you got in over here, you're still you're still probably at break even right now. So now obviously you don't want a green trade to go red, but the idea is we want to learn how to read the VIX and know when to get in and when to get out instead of chasing the moves. Okay. So now the other thing that's also important is the levels, the Mancini levels, the and so now you can see that VIX is, there's a bigger move there, and so we might be turning. So we're waiting for these triangles now to show up. Okay, and but I mean, so obviously, if you got in here, obviously you should be stopped out because you were green all the way up there, and then you're gonna have your stop at break even. You don't want any trade without a stop. Okay, because we're gonna have better entries. You should go green very quickly, and and not spend a lot of time in the red. So right now you're on the 2-minute. We're seeing a yellow triangle. So this is saying we are, sorry, this is on the 1-minute. This is saying VIX is going up, and therefore SPY. I personally like to wait for the yellow triangles and blue triangles on the 2-minute chart, okay, before I do that. And you'll see it. So if you look at the VIX down here, this yellow triangle is about this yellow triangle in the 2-minute, and then the blue triangle that changed the trend happened up there. And so you can see on the 1-minute, you could see how there were multiple changes in the meantime. So I tend to ignore those. Sometimes what works well is when I have a yellow on both, and then I have blue and a yellow close to each other. That sometimes is very strong signal to keep going up. But you can see here.
Hey, Frick.
Yes.
Hey, so could you explain the colors? I kind of ignore those, so I've never really understood them. So could you explain the colors to me?
Oh, absolutely. Now, which colors are you talking about? The yellow triangle and blue triangle?
The yellow, blues, greens, and reds. I mean, like, to be honest, there's a lot of stuff.
Yep.
So I still kind of, even with your indicator, I look past a lot of that stuff and look at price action. So I want to understand it from you personally, understand, because you're talking about it right now.
That's right. Oh, absolutely. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish here is, so basically, and there's screenshots with all of this in there, and but it's better for someone to explain it because it's easier to understand. What you want to think is, so first thing is VIX moves opposite from SPY. So if VIX goes up, SPY goes down. Now, if they both move in the same direction, then no trade. Okay, so this means look at this beautiful bounce. Look at this beautiful bounce of the VWAP for SPY. So that's a very strong move. That's very bullish when you see that. So obviously today in the beginning we're going to do a lot of talking, explaining this, but then later on we're going to be quiet, and then when we all see this bounce off the VWAP, we're like, okay, this looks good, this looks good. So this might be a good time to get in. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get there, but basically the idea of the yellow triangle is showing a short-term trend change to the upside. A blue is the same but to the downside. So and this is just using my own code and math and deciding, okay, based on a bunch of things, whether the momentum is changing to the upside or the downside, and then based on the 1-minute, 2-minute chart, you'll see them at different spots. Now, if you're in a blue triangle which says the momentum right now is to the downside. Now, if there's strong candles that push the other way, then I'll have a green triangle saying, hey, this is a strong move, counter trend move. And then a little red triangle is the same thing, but in the opposite direction. So basically at the high level you start with yellow and blue showing you the momentum direction, and then when there's and it's not just a different color, but if there's a strong movement against that direction, you'll see green and red triangles, just giving you a heads up that it might be changing. Does that make sense? I'll take that as a yes. Okay, so right here now we have obviously we have a little bit of noise here, so there's just no reason to get in, and we and we never want to chase a move. I mean, so we want to look at the data, and so right now, you know, we don't have a green triangle, sorry, a yellow triangle on the 2-minute, but on the 1-minute we have it. So the 1-minute is more noisy, but you get the signal sooner. Okay, so on the 2-minute we have a green triangle. So I mean, so right now, based on what VIX is telling me, SPY is going down. You know, it's not very clean. It's very choppy. So when you look at this move we had here, this was a clean move. You know, so we could see that. And obviously, it's easy to tell at the end that it was clean. But I mean, if you start seeing this on the 1-minute, you see nice and consistent candle. 2-minute, like, so this triangle was at 840, and then at 844. You get that, obviously, so now you have more confidence to get in. And, you know, I just want to show you, like yesterday, let's look at the 2-minute. So yesterday, obviously, was a red day. But, you know, I think what would really help you guys is go look at these charts and look at how they behave together and learn what they look like for the move to the upside or the downside. But when you look at this, like yesterday at the open, it immediately started moving up, and I was able to get into puts, and I had one runner that I got at 450, and it went up to 30, and I stopped out at $27 for, you know, one runner. So I mean, so that was totally worth it. And so you get in, it breathes a little bit, it keeps going, and then what I want to show you is, you know, the green background obviously says, you know, it's bullish and red is bearish, but you can see how it then, so we got a yellow triangle. Okay, you can see how they pull it. Then we have a green one, and that's fine. But then it broke through the EMA clouds. Okay, so right here, you know, it got there and it bounced up, but then it started hitting the bottom band. So these now become, you know, outside sized moves. You know, so here we could tell all day that VIX was pushing because it was above the upper band, the blue band that turns green when it's bullish. So it was staying above it for time. So that told me it was a strong move on the VIX going up and therefore down. But then when this happened, it broke down. It broke through the bottom band. It turned red, and now it's staying below it. So that told me that this was a very strong move down on the VIX and therefore a strong move up on the SPY. So these are things, if you learn how to read these VIX charts and combine it with the SPY, then we're going to start catching these bigger outside moves as a group, and you don't have to like chase every little move that's out there. Okay, so that's really, you know, today's objective is to just focus on one thing at a time, you know, answer questions. Obviously, levels are more important than anything. So if SPY is gonna hit a heavy resistance level, it's probably gonna reject from there. So Adam and Sini's levels are very important. So we want to watch that. But yeah, I mean, this is basically the first thing I want to have you guys learn and practice, and then over time we'll go down the chores list and we'll add more and more things, and then doing it as a group, hopefully we'll catch these trades as a group. Victory, do you want to add to this, or anyone else with questions?
It's just really about anyone that has any questions.
No, I think this is good. I think this is great to focus on technique and and then as we get the hang of it, we can probably look at this. Makes a lot.
Yeah, and remember that VIX is built for SPY, so it's not going to work as well with anything else. Now, obviously, because VIX tells you what SPY does, then it is going to impact most of the tickers out there because they mostly move together. But that's the only thing you want to keep in mind. Now, we are going to watch levels, so if you look at, if you go to Discord, you'll see I created these alerts, and so it will tell you when something's testing the 3448, and those are very important levels that we're going to play as well, and it's in the chores list, and we'll talk about exactly how we want to play them. But I don't want to cover too much at the same time here, because I think it might be a little overwhelming. But you guys can read ahead, and you guys can figure out exactly what's coming, and how to play it, etc. But I think it takes a little bit of time to learn all of the tools.
Yeah, the more you watch it, the more you pay attention, the better you're going to get at just kind of becoming second nature.
And I'm gonna share this screen most of the time so that people can look at it. If you don't have real-time data or anything, they'll be able to do that as well. And then obviously, if someone go ahead.
That,
What's that?
I said thanks a lot for explaining it. I just got to get used to looking at stuff. But yeah, I appreciate it. I'll just keep looking at it and trying to understand it. But yeah, the arrows make a lot more sense now as I'm just going through it and after you explained it. So I appreciate it.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it is definitely overwhelming. So I totally get that. Now, if yeah, I mean anytime you guys have questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer it. And then obviously the other things that's important is the 3448, testing those, and rejecting it. So we'll be watching the EMA clouds as well, and then the same for VIX. So right now VIX is testing the 48 EMA. It's going sideways, so it's a little harder to see when it's at narrow. But so if it breaks,
so I just wanted to add on this. Sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to add on this, just so I can understand it. As we're looking at live, so you're looking at the 1 minute or the 2 minute. On the 2 minute VIX, you got the yellow arrow turning up, right?
Yep.
And SPY is obviously falling. But before that, you had a green arrow going down, right? Because I think that's what the little rocket ships, like a little axe rocket ship thing, is covering it. But I think it's green. But it's the candle before, 2 candles before actually.
On the 2 minute chart.
Yeah, so if you look at the 2 minute to the bottom right, you see that yellow arrow turning up, right?
Yep.
So we see VIX turning up. But then if you look at SPY, almost yeah, 3 candles before you have that the green arrow. It looks like a green arrow behind that axe. See it? Looks like a
There's
green arrow. So you wouldn't interpret that. You just interpret that as chop because it's not a blue arrow.
so there's okay.
Or is it a
So on my screen, I see a blue arrow down.
yeah, my screen, if I took a screenshot, it's directly behind that little white ball.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so your indicator might be a little bit outdated because I did update the logic. But if so, if there's a
link, I just clicked your link because, and I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
yeah, I'm not really sure. You know, you may have to actually go and update the indicator. I'm not 100% sure how TradingView does that. But so if you have, so basically, if you have a green triangle, it's exactly the same as what we explained. So it's a counter trend triangle, and so obviously that's on SPY. Where below we're looking at VIX. So you could look at the put here on SPY and display that. And obviously you would have made good money by just taking the call here on SPY and the put there. So that's absolutely part of you know, playing SPY, is to look at the calls and put signals. But then an extra level on top of that is looking at the VIX. So so right here we got a put signal on SPY, okay, and then if I look at where VIX was down here, we can see VIX is moving up. So that gives me more confidence in that put signal to take it, okay. And the same with if I look at this call signal, the time I got it, I already had a blue triangle. So I mean, so I might have already played you know, calls on the SPY because of this blue triangle I got on the 2 minute. So these things work together, and as you spend more screen time with it, you'll better understand exactly when to trust things and when not to. Because like if you get a call signal on SPY but you see green bars on VIX, then that's a good time to ignore it because they're contradicting each other.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw it was like a couple candles before on the blue triangle. So I was just trying to understand it more or less. It's like, and it's more or less as you're in it. If you're thinking about getting in, you look at the yellow candle or the yellow triangle on the 2 minute is 2 candles after when you know how the crosshairs line up.
Yep.
Right. So I guess more further gives you confirmation. Like, hey, it's actually they're
Exactly, because the yellow and blue triangles is all about the short-term momentum where it's pushing, and then you have the green and red that says, hey, you know, I'm getting some resistance going the other direction. So it's kind of like an early warning that it might, you know, your yellow might turn into blue and blue turn into yellow. So it's that early warning signal. And then, you know, you have it on both VIX as well as SPY. And then again, if they move opposite, if they don't, it's contradictory, no trade. And so when you use them together, you're gonna have better trades on SPY because, you know, they'll tell you the same story. And then obviously right now, if you look at the mega spaces indicator, you know, it looks a little bit mixed here at a high level. So if you're going to get a big move, you're going to expect to start seeing things turn the same color, you know, relatively quickly. And that's another thing that will give you confidence. Now, obviously, this is the VWAP, this white line. So every time you cross it, it's gonna like put an X there just so to remind you that's an important spot. Now, if you're below the VWAP, then taking calls is, lower probability, if you're below the EMA clouds. And I mean, honestly, the EMA clouds right now is still sideways, so it's still trying to figure out what it wants to do. So things are not, they're not super bearish. The fact that we're below the VWAP and below this EMA cloud, doesn't give me great confidence in calls at this point. But this will teach us patience to sit here and wait and say, okay, when is a good time to get in, because everything lines up. And so if you know what all the parameters are to look at, you can look at it and say, okay, it's mixed, so this is a low probability trade at this point. You could still take it. But if you could practice the discipline to wait for those high probability trades, even if it's just once a week, that's where the big payoff will be. And so my hope is that every day we can teach like the next thing on that we want to focus on, and then have people practice it, and then the hope is that you guys can look at it by yourself. We don't need to be on here together. You use it, and then we'll set up a notification mechanism, so when people see something, you'll be able to post it, and when we see a clear trend or breakout or EMA 48 rejection, okay, then we can start setting up a notification system so that it sends, SMS message to your mobile phone so that you get it even when you're not in front of the chart. So that's basically what I'm trying to do, is like teach you guys exactly how to do this. We don't have to be on the mic all the time to do that. Once you know how to do it, and then I'll give you a web interface so that you can say, okay, here's what I'm seeing, and then we can have notifications in specific cases where, if we're in a trend day, I've been teaching you guys how to recognize a trend day and then have a notification system. So even for the guys that's on vacation, that's not able to trade, when they get a notification say, hey, we're probably in a trend up day or trend down day, they can look and say, okay, let me get in, and I'm not going to chase it because I know how to get in. I know how to use the VIX. Like yesterday, I told you guys, okay, looks like a trend down day, so use the VIX, wait for the yellow and blue triangles to tell you when to short the bounces, and then take partial profit at the low of day as you approach it, and then keep runners, and then rinse and repeat until it stops working, and then make sure you have stops, and then the VIX showed us when we had that turn. So that's basically the strategies, is help teach everyone, what to look for, what it looks like, and then have a way where we help notify each other so that we don't miss these things. So even when you're at the work, and someone tells you, hey, it's a trend up day, you could try and find the time and not chase it, know how to get in and take, fewer trades and safer trades so that, we all catch these big moves. Yeah, so right now the market obviously is just going sideways, so there's no reason to get into a trade. The other thing is like when you see a lot of these X's, it's not a good time to do anything. Wait for the chop to be over. If it lasts all day long, then there's no trade. Okay, and so if what I explained makes sense to you, then when we're going to try and set up scheduled time, so we're not going to spend a lot of time in this room. This room is going to be more for like educating you guys on the next piece and answering questions, and then you can trade it to whichever way you want. We'll set up a notification mechanism But yeah, when you see an event scheduled, feel free to join us. I mean, if this doesn't make sense to you, then that's okay too. If you're a profitable trader already, then you probably don't need this. But yeah, you shouldn't feel like you should be part of this. But in this room, I want to make sure that we focus on a very specific strategy. We all use the same strategy, and the idea is to try and catch the bigger moves. So there will be less trades and some days no trades. But you hopefully won't be losing money. You'll be making money. Okay, so you can see here, so on the 1 minute we had a yellow triangle, and then it got confirmed on the 2 minute around that time. Right now we have a blue triangle. It's not confirmed on the 2 minute yet, but once you have the confirmation, you might see a push here to the upside. And remember, it's chop. So right now, if you feel like you have to trade, until there's a trend, mean reversion is your friend. So so if we look at SPY, here we bounced off the pre-market low, close to the lower band. Then we went up to, as soon as, so you could take, on this bounce, you could take calls, and then you could, when you touch the upper band, you could take your profit. You're close to the upper band, it turns from green to blue, so you could play puts. You get your close to the bottom band, you take some profits. This guy says we're potential turn. So here you could say, hey, I'm going to take calls because I'm close to the bottom band. You could take calls. Partial profit when you get close to VWAP because it might reject there. Keep runners up. When you get close to the high band, you could take more profits, but there is a real shot that we might break yesterday's high and get a squeeze, an uptrend day today. So I would definitely keep runners at the top, but the key is not to get into the trade at the top because you missed it. You need to find better times to get into a trade, because right here you're gonna overpay. You should have got in at this blue triangle, at least, which was at VWAP. Okay, so it's all about practicing better entries and not letting a green trade go red. Okay, so we have the confirmation blue arrow on the 2 minute. So obviously, if you want to get in now, obviously just stay small, because because the chop is not over yet. I mean, it could start running anytime, it could not run, it could just still keep chopping. So you decide how much risk you want to put up with. But so this is indication for the upside. You can see at mega space, you can see that all the higher time frames, or maybe lower time frames for that matter, but all these time frames are starting to flesh out nicely. So I should probably change this to be a bigger font. All looks like. There's so much calculations to do, so it takes a little bit longer to update some. Okay, so here we go, guys. So, you know, if we break previous high, like I said, there's a real possibility that we might see a squeeze today with, if you look at the chart history, with, you know, everyone being short. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but you gotta know what the tea leaves say and what's possible. And then it might just fake you out and take your money. So if you play the VIX, like, I mean, the VIX, you know, it's still going down. If the VIX break the bottom band and stay below it, that's obviously but you know, it's heavy resistance up there for the SPY, so you know it may never break it, and it might just flush down. So ideally, you want to break the previous high, go up, come back for a retest, and then run. So when you see that, that would be a good sign. Man, I wish TradingView was faster. Just refresh. So you can see here on the 1 minute, you have a little green triangle, and you'll see that it's a little dimmer than the others. So it's less serious, but it's saying, you know, hey, bears are fighting. And you expect them to because you're at important levels. I'm going to turn Ripster on this room. You can hear his comments.
It was up 71%.
Yeah, that looks like. So you can see that Apple is still below yesterday's close, so is Amazon, so is Microsoft. But everything else above, you know, previous lows or previous high. So things are fleshing out nicely, so that's good. And again, obviously, if SPY breaks up, you can play these other guys as well. So you can see VIX on the 10-minute chart, we have a 21-minute trend. What that means is that if you look at 10-minute bars, every bar has gone, the close price has gone down. Okay, so that's what that means. Where if I look at these guys down here, 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, these are the EMA clouds and how bearish they are, and it's based on different.
AERN, Kerna, more highs now up 93%.
So it's different shades of green and red, and based on that, it will tell you where the price is relative to the 5 and 13 EMA clouds and the 34, 48 EMA clouds. As you know, Ripster is using 3450 EMA clouds. We're using 3448, and then he's using 512, and we use 513 clouds. But it's pretty much the same thing. And then above each time frame, will tell you on
STSS, Sharps Technology, issued letter to shareholders covering the announced asset purchase agreement to acquire Injecti-2 prefillable syringe manufacturing facility and associated $400 million 10-year purchase agreement with Nephron Pharmaceuticals. That's Sandy, Tango, Sandy, Sandy.
Okay, and then so above the 3 minute, it will show you a number. That number tells you that the super trend on the 3 minute
Shares
chart.
of Sharps Technology getting a little pop here on heavy volume now. STSS.
I'm just gonna turn that off. It's becoming annoying. So this is showing me that on the 3 minute chart, the super trend has been bearish for 4 minutes. So that means that the lower band was red for 4 minutes on that chart. On the 50-minute charts, the lower band has been red for 43 minutes. Okay. And then if it's green, so on the 10-minute chart, the upper band has been green for 14 minutes. Okay. So when all these things go into super trend, and the longer the time gets, and they all fill in, the more bullish it is. So that's how you want to look at these time frames. So it's like I'm on the 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minutes. And for anything to turn, you're going to see the different time frames starting to change color. But this is how, and so what I just explained here is exactly what you see on the Megaspaces indicator. Okay. So this is how you look at it and say, okay, how strong is something behaving? So you want to learn how to read these different time frames to know how well something's doing. So you can see here, right now, Meta is doing very well. Now, obviously, it could change in a heartbeat. Okay, but this is how you can gauge what's strong and what's not. But you want to make sure you don't chase anything. And for SPY to act strong, well, we're talking about acting later, but so when you watch all these things together, it will also help you understand what's happening. So I'm waiting for VIX. I want VIX to break below this lower band and stay there, and that will probably kick off a squeeze to the upside. And I'm never gonna tell you guys when to get into a trade or when to get out and how to manage your risk. I want to help you read the charts in detail so that you can become a great trader without needing me or anyone else. You can see Apple, oh yeah, and then before it, there's another number. So on the 30 minutes, there's a score from -10 to 10. And then obviously if it's minus, it's negative. And that's just how much momentum there is to the upside or downside. And obviously, so Apple, so even though it's doing strong, it's doing well right now, it's still, on the 30 minutes, it's still, fighting. It's still fighting the headwinds. So you can expect it to have a quicker change of direction, when it's fighting all of those currents. And then the percentages. So this one is, so if you hover over it, it will tell you. So this 0.29% is a gain since yesterday's close, and then this one is the gain since today's open. Okay, so when these things are green, obviously psychologically it has a big impact on how people trade. So you can see like Microsoft is breaking down a little bit. So you could just see it. And again, these things move very fast. So the fact that, it's breaking down for a little bit doesn't mean it will continue that. But it's still below the 48 EMA. So, it's not, at this point, not a great play to the upside. Now you can see on the VIX, it's scrolling up, which is normal. You can see, and again, this is why you have to you have to stare at it for many hours and days, because when you see this, you need to know, is this normal? Does this, should I be worried? And that comes only with time, so you have to keep watching it. But everything moves in a wave. So you can see there you had a little bit of perking up, and now you have a big move down.
If this range breakout keeps going, guys, you can hold your longs, hold your calls. QQQ is much better. QQQ has room to 357.
VCNX. West. PEV. TRT. VCNX. VCNXTO. VCNX. 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 VCNX.
Again, we have
VCNX.
red lower band.
VCNX.
It's been red on multiple time frames up to 15 minutes.
WDAY and Telegreen
VCNX.
named initial launch partner for
CXCZG.
Workday's new
VCNX.
AI marketplace that was Delta Alpha Yankee.
So you need to learn when to hold them, when to fold them. I mean, so at any point it might turn. That's why you trade with
WDAY.
stops. But
MSFT, Mayo Clinic, to deploy and test Microsoft generative AI tool at Michael Sandy Foxtrot Tango. MSFT.
Vert.
and that's Ripster's noise. So if I turn that off, then you won't hear Ripster.
SYK.
So it's very important, like I say, to trade with stops, so that if this thing suddenly plummets, which it could, so that you don't lose all your money. But at the same time, you got to learn when a trade is still on. It's like when I look at the fundamentals here, it's still on. So the up and down, trying to get rid of the weak hands. I mean, there's nothing here that tells me that the upside is over.
VSME.
It might be, but that's
PEV.
where you use stops.
MTRX.
BSME, IPO, $6.45 now, up 26%.
MTN.
Michael Echo.
VCNX. VCNX, 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 VCNX. Siri, BNET.
And so when you keep staring at these things, you'll see how they try and get you out of a trade.
Wall Street Journal says U.S. and China
MTRX.
discussing Washington visit by
VCNX.
top Chinese economic official. Vice Premier Xi Jinping would be the most senior
VCNX.
Chinese official to visit under
VCNX.
Biden. That's from the Wall Street Journal.
And just as you get out, then it starts running. So that's why I'm showing you this so that you can know
DSME hitting $7 now, up 30.
how to find a good entry when it's over, use stop losses, and then sometimes this will run and you'll make a lot of money. Sometimes you'll get stopped out. As long as you keep your losses to a minimum.
SJ, SJNX, SJ.
Some headlines: U.S. China discussing a Washington visit by top Chinese economic official. From the
MTN.
social media Wall Street Journal.
Anzulu. VCNX, VCNX. VCNX, VCNX, VCNX. VSME, VCNX, VCNX, VCNX. JBL. VCNX, VCNX, VCNX.
DSME halted down now on the circuit breaker. Victor Sandy Michael Echo.
Hold.